The first thing I heard when I woke up wasn't the steady beep of hospital machines. It was my phone, vibrating nonstop, on the metal tray beside my bed. I remember thinking, good, they must be here. My parents, my twins. I reached for the phone with shaking fingers, my stomach still tight from the surgery, my throat dry like I had swallowed sand. The screen lit up 14 missed calls. None from my parents. They were all from the hospital daycare. My heart dropped so fast it felt like the stitches inside me might tear. I answered before it could ring again. "Ma'am," the woman said, her voice strained, professional but tired. "We've been trying to reach your emergency contacts for hours. Your twins have been crying nonstop. We can't keep them overnight." Overnight. That word hit harder than the anesthesia wearing off. I listed my parents, I whispered. "They said they'd come." There was a pause, a long one. "We called them," she said carefully. "They declined." Declined. As if my 2 6-month-old babies were an invitation to a party. They just didn't feel like attending. I hung up and stared at the ceiling, my chest rising too fast, my mind scrambling to make sense of it. My parents loved babies. They loved other people's babies. They especially loved my sister's life, her concerts, her trips, her freedom. But they wouldn't abandon their grandchildren. Not during surgery. Not when I had begged. I called my mother first. She answered on the third ring. "What?" she said, irritated, like I'd interrupted something important. "Mom," I said, my voice cracking immediately. "Where are the twins? The hospital says." "Oh, that," she interrupted. "We can't do it." My fingers went numb. "Can't do what?" "Watch them," she said plainly. "Your father and I already told you. This surgery thing is becoming a nuisance." A nuisance. "I had emergency surgery," I said, barely breathing. I was bleeding internally. She sighed dramatically. "You always exaggerate. We had plans." "What plans?" I asked, my voice shaking now. There was laughter in the background. Music, people cheering. "We have tickets," she said proudly. "Your sister surprised us. Front row." "For?" I asked, even though a terrible feeling was already crawling up my spine. "Taylor Swift," she said, like that explained everything. "We're already dressed." I didn't speak. I couldn't. "So you chose a concert," I finally said. "Over your grandchildren." She clicked her tongue. "Don't be dramatic. They won't even remember this. Besides, you're always so dependent. Maybe this will teach you something." Something snapped in my chest. "I could die," I said quietly. She laughed. Actually laughed. "Oh, please," she said. "If it were that serious, doctors wouldn't have let you text so much. Call a nanny or something. We're busy." The line went dead. I stared at my phone for a long time. Then I called my father. He didn't answer. I called my sister. She picked up immediately, her voice buzzing with excitement. "You should see the stage," she squealed. "It's insane." "Where are my babies?" I asked. She scoffed. "Not my problem. You decided to have kids. Don't drag everyone else down with you." "I'm in a hospital bed," I said. "I can't even sit up. And I'm finally happy," she snapped. "For once, it's not about you." The call ended. I remember turning my face into the pillow and screaming, silently, because it hurt too much to make a sound. That was the moment something inside me changed. Not cracked, not bent, died. An hour later, the nurse returned, concern written all over her face. "I need a solution," she said gently. "If no family can come, I'll handle it," I said. My voice sounded calm, too calm. "I found a private nanny agency," through shaking hands. My vision blurring as I signed forms digitally. The price didn't matter. Nothing mattered except my children being safe. As I confirmed the booking, a message popped up on my phone. From my mother. "Don't ruin tonight with your guilt trips. We raised you. Now raise your own kids." I didn't reply. Instead, I did something I had never done before. I opened my banking app, and I began cutting ties. One by one. The college fund I paid into for my sister's kids that didn't even exist yet. Gone. The monthly allowance my parents needed. Gone. The house renovations I had promised to help with. Cancelled. Then I opened my contacts and blocked them. All of them. By the time the nanny arrived at the hospital to take my twins home, I was numb, empty, like the person I had been before surgery had stayed on the operating table. But I didn't cry. Not yet. Because 2 weeks later, someone knocked on my door, and everything changed. The knock wasn't loud. That's what scared me. 3 soft taps, careful, hesitant, like whoever stood on the other side already knew they weren't welcome, but came anyway. I was standing in the kitchen, warming a bottle for one of the twins, my body still sore, my movements slow and deliberate. The nanny had just left. The house was quiet except for the low hum of the refrigerator and the soft breathing of my babies in the nursery. The knock came again, this time firmer. My stomach tightened. No one knocked like that unless they were afraid of what I might say. I looked through the peephole, and my breath caught. It was my grandfather. He stood there, leaning heavily on his cane, shoulders slightly hunched, winter coat buttoned wrong, like he'd rushed. His silver hair was thinner than the last time I'd seen him, his face lined deeper with worry than age. I hadn't spoken to him in months, not because we didn't love each other, because my parents always said, "Don't bother him, he's old, he doesn't need drama." I opened the door instantly. "Grandpa," I whispered. His eyes lifted to mine and softened, then hardened, then filled with something that looked dangerously close to rage. "Are you okay?" he asked, scanning my face, my posture, the way I leaned against the doorframe for support. I nodded automatically. "I'm better." He didn't believe me. He stepped inside without another word and closed the door behind him. The moment it shut, his hand began to shake on the cane. "I heard you had surgery," he said quietly. My heart skipped. "Who told you?" He exhaled slowly through his nose. "No one, which is exactly the problem." I swallowed. He took a step closer, lowering his voice. "I found out from a neighbor. She mentioned an ambulance, said your parents weren't with you." The silence between us thickened. "Where were they?" he asked. I opened my mouth, and for the first time since waking up in that hospital bed, my composure shattered. The words poured out. Everything. The surgery, the emergency, the twins crying, the daycare calls, the concert, the laughter. I didn't embellish. I didn't dramatize. I didn't need to. By the time I finished, my grandfather's face had gone pale. "Say that again," he said very softly. "They refused to watch the twins." I repeated. "They said I was a nuisance, a burden." His jaw clenched. "They said they had tickets," I added. "So I called a nanny from my hospital bed." My grandfather closed his eyes. When he opened them again, they were wet. He walked past me without another word and into the nursery. I followed, my heart pounding. He stood over the cribs for a long time, watching my twins sleep, their tiny chests rising and falling in sync, their fists curled near their faces. "These are babies," he said hoarsely, "not inconveniences." I nodded, tears streaming silently down my face. "I raised your mother better than this," he said. That sentence hurt more than anything else, because it meant he believed me. He turned to me slowly. "Why didn't you call me?" I wiped my cheeks. "They said you were too old, that I shouldn't stress you." His eyes darkened. "So they isolated you," he said. "Convenient." He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out his phone. "What are you doing?" I asked. "Fixing something," he replied. He scrolled, pressed call, and put the phone on speaker. It rang once, twice. My mother answered. "What now?" she snapped. "We're busy." My grandfather straightened. "This is your father," he said, his voice calm, dangerously calm. "And you will explain to me why I just learned from a stranger that my granddaughter nearly died alone." There was a pause, then forced laughter. "Oh, Dad, don't start. She's exaggerating again." "She had surgery," he said. "Where were you?" "At a concert," my mother replied defensively. "It was planned. We can't put our lives on hold every time she panics." I watched my grandfather's hand tighten around the phone. "Your daughter was bleeding internally," he said, "and you chose music." "She's always been dramatic," my mother snapped. "And those twins." "Stop," he said sharply. "Silence. You will not speak about my great-grandchildren like they are a mistake." He said, "Do you understand me?" I had never heard that tone before. "Yes," she muttered. "Good," he said, "because this conversation isn't over, it's just postponed." He ended the call. Then he turned to me. "Did you cut them off?" he asked. I hesitated. "I stopped financial support." His lips pressed into a thin line. "Smart," he said, "but not enough." I stared at him. He placed a gentle hand on my shoulder. "You have protected your children," he said. "Now let me protect you." At that moment, my phone buzzed. A message from my sister. "Mom is furious. Grandpa called her screaming. What did you tell him?" Before I could respond, another message arrived. From an unknown number. "This is your lawyer. Your grandfather asked me to contact you." My heart slammed into my ribs. I looked up at him. "What did you do?" I whispered. He met my eyes. "I told the truth," he said. "And now everyone will face it." The lawyer's message. sat on my screen like a warning I wasn't ready to read. My grandfather lowered himself into a chair, suddenly looking every bit of his age, though the fire in his eyes hadn't dimmed. "Before you panic," he said, noticing my expression, "you should know something." I waited. He folded his hands over the top of his cane. "Your parents don't own what they think they own." The room felt smaller. "What do you mean?" I asked. "They live comfortably because I allow it," he said calmly, "not because they earned it." I stared at him, my heart racing. "For 30 years," he continued, "I have quietly paid their mortgage, their taxes, their vacations. I funded your sister's lifestyle. I even covered debts they never told you about." My stomach twisted. "They told everyone they were self-made," I whispered. He gave a humorless smile. "They told everyone many things." My phone buzzed again. The lawyer was calling. I answered, my voice unsteady. "Hello. Good afternoon," the man said smoothly. "I represent your grandfather. He's instructed me to ensure you're protected going forward." "Protected how?" I asked. There was a pause, deliberate. "By restructuring assets," he said. "Effective immediately." I looked at my grandfather. He nodded once. "What kind of assets?" I asked. "Property," the lawyer replied. "Trusts, accounts your parents currently rely on." My breath caught. "They're being transferred," he continued. "Away from your parents." Silence filled the room. "To you," he finished. I couldn't speak. My grandfather cleared his throat. "You will not struggle," he said. "Not while I'm alive, and not after." The lawyer went on, businesslike now. "Your parents will be notified today. There may be backlash." Backlash. That word barely scratched the surface of what followed. Within minutes of ending the call, my phone exploded. Calls, texts, voicemails. I didn't answer. I just watched the screen light up over and over again, like a storm I could finally see coming. Then my mother left a voicemail. Her voice was shaking, not with sadness, with fear. "What did you do?" she demanded. "Your grandfather is confused. He doesn't understand the pressure we're under. You need to fix this. Now." I deleted it. Another message arrived from my father. "You've crossed a line. Family doesn't do this to each other." I laughed out loud. Family. My sister sent a long text next, longer than anything she'd ever sent me. "You're destroying Mom and Dad. Grandpa is old and emotional. If you care about this family, you'll tell him to stop." I showed my grandfather. He read it slowly. Then he shook his head. "They still don't understand," he said. "What?" I asked. "They think this is about punishment," he replied. "It isn't." He stood up, steadier now. "It's about consequences." The doorbell rang. Once, then again. Harder. My heart jumped. I looked at him. "It's them." He nodded. "Good." I opened the door. My parents stood there, faces pale, eyes red, panic barely contained beneath forced smiles. My mother rushed forward. "Sweetheart." My grandfather stepped between us. "You will not touch her," he said. They froze. "This is a misunderstanding," my father said quickly. "She didn't tell you the whole story." "Oh, she did," my grandfather replied. "Every word." My mother's voice cracked. "Dad, please." We were stressed. We didn't mean it. "You meant every word you said to her," he replied coldly. "You just didn't think there would be witnesses." My sister appeared behind them, arms crossed, eyes blazing. "So this is it," she snapped. "You play victim and steal our future." I felt something steady settle inside me. "You chose a concert over my children." I said, "This is what that choice cost." My father clenched his fists. "We raised you. You owe us." My grandfather laughed, a low, bitter sound. "She owes you nothing," he said. "I owe her an apology for trusting you." My mother fell to her knees. Actually fell. "We'll do anything," she sobbed. "Just tell him to stop." My grandfather looked down at her, unmoved. "I already have," he said. Their faces drained of color. What do you mean?" my father whispered. He turned to me. "Do you want to tell them?" he asked gently. "Or should I?" I swallowed hard. "I will," I said. I met their eyes. "You're cut off," I said calmly. "Completely." Silence. My sister screamed. And that was only the beginning. The scream didn't sound human. It tore out of my sister's throat, sharp and raw, echoing down the hallway like something had been ripped straight out of her chest. "No, no, this isn't real," she shouted. "You can't do this." My mother tried to stand, but her legs gave out again. She grabbed my father's arm, nails digging into his sleeve like she was drowning. "Dad," she begged, voice shaking violently. "Please, this is just stress. She's been emotional since the babies. We didn't mean." "You meant it," my grandfather cut in. "And now you'll live with it." My father finally lost his composure. Do you know what you've done? He barked at me. We'll lose the house, the accounts, everything. I looked at him, really looked at him, and felt nothing. You already lost me, I said. That hit harder than anything else. My grandfather motioned for them to sit. You should hear the standing, he said, but I'm not cruel, just honest. He reached into his coat and pulled out a folded document. My will, he said, updated this morning. My sister lunged forward. You can't change it overnight. I can, he replied calmly, and I did. He unfolded the paper. For decades, he continued, I believed family meant loyalty. I was wrong. Family means responsibility. My mother's lips trembled. Everything I own, he said slowly, was conditional. My father's eyes widened. Conditional. Yes, he replied. On compassion, on decency, on showing up when it mattered. He looked at me. They failed. The room was silent, except for my mother's quiet sobs. The house you live in, he continued, is in my name, the cars, the credit lines, even the business you boast about. My father staggered back like he'd been punched. You wouldn't, he whispered. I already have, my grandfather said. My sister started pacing. This is insane. You're choosing her over us. No, my grandfather corrected. I'm choosing the children you abandoned. That was when my sister snapped. She planned this, she screamed, pointing at me. She used the babies to manipulate you. I stepped forward. I was on an operating table. I said evenly, bleeding, alone. She faltered. And you were screaming at a concert. I continued. So don't talk to me about manipulation. My mother crawled closer to my grandfather. I'll watch them, she sobbed. Anytime, I swear I'll quit everything. My grandfather shook his head. You weren't unavailable, he said. You were unwilling. There's a difference. My phone buzzed again. Another message from the lawyer. Transfers complete, accounts frozen, deeds filed. I read it silently. Then I showed my parents. My father collapsed into a chair. My sister's face went white. You ruined us, she whispered. No, I said. You ruined yourselves. The doorbell rang again. Everyone froze. I looked at my grandfather. Who is that? He gave a small, grim smile. That, he said, is the rest of the truth. I opened the door. Two people stood there, a woman in a tailored suit, and a man holding a folder stamped CPS. My mother screamed. My mother's scream didn't stop when the CPS worker stepped inside. It grew louder, shriller, like if she screamed enough, reality might reverse itself. This is a mistake, she cried. We didn't do anything wrong. The woman in the suit remained calm, professional, unreadable. She flashed her badge briefly, then looked straight at my grandfather. Thank you for contacting us, she said. We'll keep this brief. My father stood up abruptly. You had no right. He snapped at my grandfather. This is harassment. No, my grandfather replied. This is accountability. The CPS worker turned to my parents. We received concerns regarding neglect. Specifically, refusal to provide emergency care for infants during a medical crisis. My sister scoffed. They're not their kids. The CPS worker looked at her. They are their grandchildren, listed as emergency caregivers. That makes this relevant. Silence slammed into the room. The man holding the folder opened it. We also received documentation, he said, including recorded phone calls and written messages. My stomach dropped. I hadn't told anyone about the recordings. Then I remembered. The hospital automatically recorded emergency calls. My mother's face drained of color. What recordings? She whispered. The CPS worker pressed a button on her tablet. My mother's voice filled the room. This surgery thing is becoming a nuisance. They won't even remember this. Call a nanny or something. We're busy. My sister covered her mouth. My father's hands began to shake. That's taken out of context, he said weakly. The CPS worker didn't even blink. We're not here to remove children, she said. We're here to assess risk. She turned to me. Are your children safe now? Yes, I said firmly. They are, and they will be. She nodded. That's what matters. My mother lunged toward me. You did this, she screamed. You humiliated us. My grandfather stepped forward instantly. You humiliated yourselves, he said. She survived you. The CPS worker cleared her throat. There's one more thing, she said. This isn't the first complaint. The room went dead silent. My father froze. What do you mean? The man with the folder spoke. There was a report filed years ago, involving emotional neglect. My sister's eyes darted to my parents. What report? She asked. I felt a cold realization settle in my chest. The CPS worker looked at me. It was filed when you were 16, she said gently, by a school counselor. My breath caught. I remembered. The days I stayed late at school, because home felt unbearable. The counselor, who noticed I was always hungry. The one who asked too many questions. My mother shook her head violently. That was nothing, teen drama. The CPS worker met her gaze. The report was closed, she said, but it stayed on record. She closed her folder. Patterns matter. My grandfather exhaled slowly, like a man finally seeing the full shape of a wound. You didn't just fail her once, he said quietly. You failed her entire life. My sister started crying, not screaming, not yelling, just crying. Why didn't you tell me? She whispered to me. I looked at her. You never asked, I said. The CPS worker turned toward the door. We'll be in touch, she said calmly. For now, ensure there is no contact with the children unless approved. My mother collapsed again. This isn't over, my father muttered, eyes burning with resentment. My grandfather nodded. You're right, he said. It isn't. After they left, the house felt hollow. My grandfather sat heavily. I should have seen it, he said. I trusted them because they were mine. He looked at me. I won't make that mistake again. That night, after everyone was gone, I checked my phone one last time. A notification popped up. Live video, my sister. I clicked it. She was crying on camera and telling a story that wasn't true. I almost closed the live stream. My sister's face filled the screen, mascara running, hair pulled back messily, eyes red and shining under harsh ring light. She looked fragile, broken. She knew exactly how to look that way. I never wanted to do this, she sobbed to thousands of viewers. But my family is being destroyed, and I can't stay silent anymore. Comments poured in so fast they blurred. Stay strong. Family betrayal hurts the worst. We believe you. My stomach twisted. She wiped her cheeks dramatically. My sister is manipulating our grandfather. She continued. She's using her babies to punish our parents because she's always been jealous. Jealous? I laughed, a short, hollow sound. She's always wanted attention. My sister went on. Now she's taking everything from us, our home, our security. The comments exploded. That's evil. Babies shouldn't be weapons. Grandparents deserve respect. My hand hovered over the screen. Then my grandfather sat beside me. I wondered when she'd try this, he said calmly. You're not mad? I asked. No, he replied. I'm prepared. He took out his phone and pressed upload. Within minutes, his own video went live. No filters, no tears, no theatrics. Just truth. He spoke slowly, deliberately. I am the grandfather in question, he began, and I am not being manipulated. Viewers flooded in. I made my decision after learning that my daughter and son-in-law refused to care for their infant grandchildren during an emergency surgery. He paused. I have recordings. The comment section froze. I will not play them here, he continued, but I have provided them to authorities. My sister's live stream numbers dropped in real time. Then came the receipts, screenshots, timestamps, a blurred clip of my mother's voice saying, "This surgery thing is becoming a nuisance." The internet turned vicious. What the hell? That's not taken out of context. Those poor babies. My sister's live ended abruptly. Her follower count began falling like a crashing elevator. My phone buzzed. A text from her. Turn IT off. You're ruining US. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. The next morning, news blogs picked it up. Grandparents skip emergency to attend concert, lose everything. My parents' employer called, then their bank, then their friends. Silence followed. For the first time in my life, they had no narrative to hide behind. My grandfather watched it all quietly. This isn't revenge, he said. It's clarity. That afternoon, a courier arrived. An envelope. Inside was a handwritten letter. From my mother. We made mistakes. Families forgive. Please don't let this be the end. I folded it carefully and placed it in the trash. That night, as I rocked my twins to sleep, something inside me finally softened. Not toward them, toward myself. I wasn't cruel. I was done. The house felt like a courtroom, not because of walls or furniture, because of the weight in the air. Every step they took seemed hesitant, fearful, like walking on ice that could break at any moment. My parents were here again, this time without screaming, without theatrics, just empty faces, drained of color, drained of defenses. My grandfather sat in his chair, cane across his knees, eyes sharp as a hawk. I stood beside him, twins cradled safely against me. Sit, he said simply. They obeyed. I felt a cold calm settle over me. Do you understand why you're here? he asked, voice calm but lethal. My father swallowed. We know we made mistakes. Do you? My grandfather said. Or are you just saying it because it benefits you? My mother's hands trembled. We want to make it right. We'll do anything. Anything, he repeated, leaning forward slightly. Anything includes admitting the truth. That you refused your own grandchildren when they needed you most. They looked at each other, and I could see the panic building. Yes, but my father began. No, my grandfather interrupted sharply. No excuses, no blaming her, no distractions. The room went quiet except for the soft breathing of the twins. You were their parents, he said. Not their audience, not their entertainers, parents. My mother started to cry. We didn't think. Exactly, he said, slamming his hand lightly on the armrest. You didn't think, and thinking isn't enough. Action is. I watched my father shrink under the weight of those words. I had never seen him so powerless. And now, my grandfather continued, looking at them both. Your privileges are gone. Your accounts, your house, your inheritance, all inaccessible. Not as punishment, not as revenge, but because you failed to meet your responsibility. You failed your family. You failed your children's children. Silence. They hung their heads. My sister had snuck in earlier, hiding behind the door, but even she knew the fight was over. Do you understand? My grandfather asked again. Yes, they whispered. Good, he said, because understanding is all you have left. Forgiveness is a privilege. You lost the moment you chose selfishness over love. My mother tried to reach toward the twins. I stepped slightly forward. No contact, I said firmly. They're mine, my father said, voice breaking. No, I replied softly. They're safe, and you will never forget the lessons of today. My grandfather stood, cane in hand. Remember this moment, he said, his voice low but resonant. Not as punishment, but as truth. This is the clarity you refuse to see. My parents were speechless, broken, exposed. I felt an unexpected wave of calm. Not triumph, not satisfaction. Calm, because the weight of waiting, of worry, of fear for my children, all of that was gone. For the first time in years, I could breathe. The twins stirred in my arms, cooing softly. I smiled down at them. The future was mine. Safe, protected, untouchable. And my parents, they finally understood what neglect really meant. The days after the confrontation were eerily quiet. My parents didn't call. They didn't text. They didn't appear anywhere near the house. But my sister never gave up. Late one evening, I received an anonymous email. You think you won? Think again. You're about to regret everything. Attached were several screenshots, videos, messages, manipulations, attempts she had made to turn the internet against me. It was shocking, disturbing, and completely futile. I called my grandfather immediately. He read through them quietly, lips pressed into a thin line. She's desperate, he said calmly. And desperation is dangerous, but it's transparent. I asked, what do we do? Expose it, he replied. Truth always wins. The next day, we did exactly that. He posted everything publicly. Messages, videos, and screenshots showing my sister's lies. Nothing was hidden. Nothing edited. The proof was undeniable. The internet exploded. Manipulative sister tries to ruin mother's grandchild. Grandparent saves the day. Truth about entitled family exposed. Comments flooded in. Support poured from strangers. Messages of love, understanding, and admiration for protecting my children filled every notification. Meanwhile, my sister tried to call. I answered. This isn't fair, she yelled. You can't ruin me like this. I didn't, I said calmly. You did. She gasped. Grandpa, you can't. He stepped into the room. I can, he said flatly. Because it's not about fairness, it's about responsibility. Her face went pale. You will face consequences, he continued. Not punishment, but accountability. You will learn, finally, what it means to fail those who rely on you. The truth hit hard. My sister's online reputation collapsed overnight. Sponsors pulled back. Friends distanced themselves. Even her closest supporters began to question her story. My parents, too, were facing fallout. Former colleagues and distant relatives had heard the truth. The hypocrisy they lived behind for decades was now public. It was over. And yet, my grandfather wasn't done. He turned to me, eyes soft now. There's one more secret, he said. One you must know about your family before any of this can truly end. I leaned in, heart pounding. He revealed the shocking truth. Decades ago, my parents had hidden financial decisions that could have destroyed the family fortune entirely. Your sister wasn't the only problem, he said. Your parents were reckless. Their choices could have left you, your children, and even me with nothing. That's why I had to act now, not later. The gravity of his words hit me. This wasn't just about neglect. It was about survival. And now my family's past, present, and future were finally aligned. The morning sunlight streamed through the windows, warm and forgiving, yet it felt sharper than ever. My grandfather called me into his study. The twins giggled in the background, their tiny hands reaching for the morning light. Today, he said, we finalized the last piece. I watched as he opened a safe behind his desk. Inside were papers, meticulously organized, trust documents, property deeds, bank account details, legal protections. Everything, he said simply. Every asset you could need, every precaution against neglect, is yours, forever. No one can touch it without your consent. I stared at the stacks of papers. My chest swelled with relief, and yet there was a quiet awe. He smiled gently. Your parents might try again. Your sister might try. But these measures, they're unbreakable. I nodded. So my children are safe. Safe, he confirmed. And that's all that matters. Later that day, my parents returned. This time with silent faces, masks of defeat. My mother began, hesitating. No, my grandfather interrupted. Do not speak to her. She owes you nothing. Your words mean nothing. They sank into chairs, quiet now, resigned. I stood, twins in arms, and spoke. Calm, firm. You had every chance to protect them, to care for them. You failed. And now, you live with that knowledge forever. My father's shoulders slumped. My mother lowered her gaze. They realized fully for the first time that apologies couldn't reverse harm. Not fully. My sister, who had watched the confrontation unfold from the hallway, shrank back into a corner. She whispered nothing. She could say nothing. My grandfather turned to me. Remember this day, he said. The day truth became stronger than lies. The day the children, the innocent, were protected. And with that, the house seemed lighter. The twins cooed, laughing, oblivious to the chaos that had threatened to engulf them. I felt a peace I hadn't known in years. Not joy, not triumph. Peace, because the children would always come first. And my parents finally understood the cost of their choices. It wasn't just embarrassment. It wasn't just public shame. It was the loss of trust, irreparable, undeniable. I looked at my grandfather. Thank you, I said softly. He smiled. No, you did what mattered. I just ensured you wouldn't have to fight alone. And in that moment I realized, family could fail. But when the right people choose truth, protection, and responsibility, justice, quiet and strong, always prevails. Weeks passed since the confrontation. The house was quiet in a new way, not tense. Not heavy, but purposeful. My twins played on the floor, crawling, laughing, oblivious to the storm that had raged around them. My parents had retreated completely. Their calls stopped, their texts vanished. Even distant relatives had started keeping their distance after seeing the undeniable truth online and hearing the official reports. They had lost more than money. They had lost credibility, authority, and the illusion of control. My sister tried once more to reach out. A weak attempt to manipulate me through social media. I didn't reply. My grandfather handled it in his usual, quiet way. He publicly posted a simple message. Truth cannot be silenced. Protect your own. Everything else is secondary. It went viral. Support poured in. Strangers praised our integrity. And slowly, the narrative my sister tried to spin collapsed completely. Months later, my parents attempted to reach my grandfather in private. They begged. They pleaded. They offered money, apologies, promises, everything but genuine understanding. He refused. They will never understand, he said. And that is enough. For me, it was a relief. I didn't want revenge. I didn't want control. I only wanted my children safe, loved, and shielded from neglect. The twins grew up, laughter filling the house, weekends filled with books, stories, and gentle guidance. They never knew the fear, the betrayal, the chaos that almost touched them. And that was exactly how it should be. Every time I saw them sleep safely, my heart swelled with gratitude for the grandfather who saw the truth and acted. Years later, I reflected on that time. I realized how fragile trust is, how quickly it can be broken, and how courage, clarity, and truth can restore what was threatened, stronger than before. My parents, they faded from our lives, not cruelly removed, but naturally, like a chapter that ended. My sister eventually rebuilt her life. But the lesson never left her. Actions have consequences, and neglect has no forgiveness when it harms innocence. As for me, the mother of two strong, happy children, I learned love is action, protection is responsibility, and family, when true, rises to meet danger rather than flee from it. The story of that one fateful surgery, the refusal of my parents, and the priceless intervention of my grandfather became a private legend in our lives, a reminder that justice, quiet and deliberate, is stronger than any scream, and in that truth we found peace.